When a man is not grounded, he becomes a puppet. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now." In today's world, power has shifted. Influence isn't just physical, it's psychological. Women don't need to overpower men to control them. All they need to do is trigger the right emotional reaction: guilt, desire, shame, validation seeking. And most men will dance like puppets. But Stoicism was built for this battlefield. Why are modern men so easily manipulated by women? Because they lack one thing: emotional discipline. Most men were never taught how to protect their mind from manipulation. They were taught to please, to seek approval, to fear rejection. And so when a woman pulls away, gives a silent treatment, uses jealousy tactics, or weaponizes affection, the average man falls into panic. But the Stoic doesn't chase. The Stoic doesn't beg. The Stoic doesn't break. This video will show you how to never be emotionally manipulated again. Not by guilt, not by seduction, not by attention withdrawal. You will learn to reclaim your frame, your self-respect, and your power. In the next 7 sections, you'll learn why manipulation works on weak minds, how to emotionally detach from games, how to recognize hidden tactics that control you, how to be immune to validation traps, and most importantly, how to become a man no one can emotionally destabilize. Watch until the end if you want to stop being controlled and become the uncontrollable. Let's begin. Section 1. Manipulation thrives where emotional weakness lies. The first and most important truth: you can only be manipulated if you have emotional leaks. Most men walk through the world full of holes, desperate for attention, love, praise, or approval. And anyone, especially a woman, can pull strings when she senses those gaps. She doesn't have to be evil. She just has to be aware. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." You become manipulable the moment your mood depends on external forces. When her silence makes you insecure, when her validation makes you feel high, when her criticism makes you feel worthless. The Stoic doesn't eliminate emotion. He eliminates emotional dependency. Ask yourself, would you still feel powerful if she ghosted you? Would you still walk tall if she flirted with someone else? Would you still act with purpose if she said, "You're not enough"? Most men wouldn't. Most men collapse. That's why manipulation works. Because you gave her the remote control to your self-worth. And once someone else owns your emotions, they own you. So what do? You unplug. You stop feeding your value through her reactions. You stop giving people power they never earned. Stoicism teaches that power must begin within. It is not given. It is not negotiated. It is claimed. Emotional detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means clarity. You still care. You still love. But you do not attach your identity to her behavior. Because if you do, you will always be led, never lead. In the next section, we'll break down the seductive trap of validation and why it's a favorite tool of emotional manipulators. Section 2. Validation is a drug. She's a dealer. If she knows you need her approval, she doesn't need chains to control you. A look, a smile, a compliment, a breadcrumb of attention. That's all it takes. You start chasing. You start performing. You start self-abandoning just to win her back. Epictetus said, "A man should so live that his happiness shall depend as little as possible on external things." Validation is addictive. It activates the same neurological response as drugs or gambling. And when you build a habit of chasing it from women, they don't need to manipulate you consciously. You'll manipulate yourself. She praises you. You feel like a king. She withdraws. You spiral into insecurity. You might think you're falling for her. But in reality, you're just high on recognition. The Stoic knows that external approval is not only unstable, it's dangerous. Because what happens when it's taken away? Most men panic. They double text. They question themselves. They apologize for things they never did. They try to impress, flatter, prove, convince, all because they fear losing the source of their emotional supply. But here's the Stoic truth. The moment you crave validation, you give away control. You must learn to validate yourself through your values, through your actions, through your inner alignment. That way, if she praises you, you're unaffected. If she ignores you, you're unmoved. If she leaves, you're still whole. This makes you not only immune to manipulation, it makes you magnetic. Because women are drawn to men who don't seek their approval. Why? Because those men are rare. Because those men are dangerous. Because those men are free. In the next section, we'll explore how emotional reactivity is the bait that keeps you stuck and how a Stoic mind can cut the hook. Section 3. Emotion is a hook. Reactivity is a trap. Manipulation doesn't start with her control. It starts with your reaction. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When she does something provocative, pulls away, flirts with someone, criticizes you, it's not the act that gives her power. It's your emotional response to it. If you flinch, if you rage, if you chase, she knows she owns your emotional center. And from that moment on, the game begins. This is not about demonizing her. It's about recognizing the game and refusing to play. Reactivity is weakness disguised as passion, and most men confuse the two. They say, "I just care too much." No, you're just too reactive. A Stoic man doesn't suppress emotion. He processes it privately and acts intentionally. You don't need to respond to every provocation. You don't need to correct every insult. You don't need to win every emotional argument. You need to stay centered. You need to observe before you engage. You need to detach before you decide. Reactivity is manipulation's best friend. It gives the other person all the data they need. What triggers you, what you fear losing, where your self-worth lies. They will push every one of those buttons because you show them the control panel. When you're reactive, you become predictable. When you're predictable, you're controllable. Stoicism gives you the shield of self-command. Train yourself to pause, to observe your thoughts, to question your judgments, to respond only when it serves your values, not your ego. Because the moment you stop reacting, the manipulation dies. In the next section, we'll dive into the silent power of indifference and why nothing terrifies a manipulator more than a man who doesn't need a response. Section 4. Indifference isn't cold, it's controlled fire. There's a reason manipulators escalate. When you don't respond, they panic. Why? Because indifference is power. Epictetus said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Indifference doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you feel, but you are not ruled by those feelings. You acknowledge emotion, but you don't obey it. That's the essence of Stoicism. Fire contained within a steel frame. Manipulators rely on reaction. Silence makes them uncomfortable. A neutral face terrifies them. No response forces them to wrestle with themselves instead of pulling you into their game. The Stoic man knows this. The less he reacts, the more he reveals the true nature of others. Indifference creates space. Space for her to show her real intentions. Space for you to remain free. It burns off illusions. It silences games. When you're indifferent to seduction, guilt, emotional bait, or attention withdrawal, you become unpredictable. You become dangerous. You're no longer a toy, you're a mirror. And a mirror always reflects truth. Indifference isn't weakness. It's mastery. Mastery over yourself. Mastery over the moment. So train indifference not as numbness, but as precision. Don't give silence to punish. Give silence to preserve peace. Don't ignore to play games. Ignore to escape them. Let her feel the absence of your reaction. Let her recognize that your emotions are not her property, that your peace is not negotiable. Because once a manipulator knows she can't shake you, she stops trying. In the next section, we'll talk about the ultimate Stoic tool of resistance, boundaries, and how they protect you from silent control. Section 5. Boundaries as sword of the Stoic. If reactivity is your shield, then boundaries are your sword. They are not just walls. They are declarations of who you are and what you refuse to tolerate. And no man can be free from manipulation until his boundaries are sharp, clear, and non-negotiable. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." A boundary is not a rule for others. It's a standard for yourself. Boundaries protect your peace from being eroded by guilt trips, from being dissolved by seductive games, from being diluted by emotional chaos. The Stoic does not set boundaries to control others. He sets them to preserve his character. Here's what most men do wrong. They only draw boundaries after they've been crossed. That's weakness. A Stoic man defines his lines before the test. He knows his values. He knows his limits. He knows that anything that compromises his peace, his purpose, or his integrity must be rejected, no matter who delivers it. Boundaries are not about confrontation. They're about clarity. You don't need to yell. You don't need to explain. You don't need to beg. You state, and then you act. When a woman tries to manipulate you through guilt, "I understand you're upset, but I won't be spoken to like that." Through silence, "Take all the time you need, but I won't chase anyone." Through threats, "If you feel the need to walk away, I won't stop you." That's not emotional coldness. That's self-respect. When you hold firm boundaries, you stop bleeding energy into chaos. You stop seeking harmony in dysfunction. You stop negotiating with emotional terrorists. And most of all, you become a man that cannot be shaped by others. The Stoic isn't harsh. He's clear. He doesn't react with fury. He acts with finality. Your peace is your responsibility. No one will guard it for you. You must draw the lines. And you must have the courage to defend them. In the next section, we'll explore why attachment is the enemy and how detachment is the greatest source of inner strength. Section 6. Attachment is a cage. Freedom lies in detachment. There is no manipulation without attachment. Epictetus said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he is not, but rejoices for those which he has." The deeper your emotional dependency on another person, the more power they wield over you. When your happiness, validation, or sense of worth is tethered to someone else's presence, actions, or approval, you are no longer free. You are owned. The Stoics believe that all suffering stems not from loss itself, but from our clinging to what is outside of our control. And what is more outside your control than another person's mood, desire, or loyalty? Attachment creates fear. Fear of loss, rejection, replacement. And fear creates compliance. You start to accommodate, self-abandon, tolerate disrespect. Not because you are weak, but because you are afraid to lose what you attach to your identity. This is the ultimate trap, and Stoicism holds the key to escape it. To detach is not to stop caring. It's to stop clinging. The Stoic sees love as a virtue, but not as a chain. He engages fully, but never loses himself. He practices presence, but accepts impermanence. He understands that no human being can be possessed, not even those we love. Detachment gives you emotional mobility. It allows you to walk away without resentment, say no without guilt, observe manipulation without reacting. When a manipulator senses that you're emotionally anchored to them, They will test that anchor. They'll pull away. They'll threaten to leave. They'll provoke jealousy, all to see if you'll drift from your center. But the detached man doesn't drift. He stays grounded because he loves without clinging. He commits without controlling. He connects without losing himself. Detachment is not loneliness. It's liberation. And no manipulator can ensnare a man who is already whole. In the next section, we'll explore the final and most critical layer of manipulation resistance, cultivating a Stoic purpose that is bigger than any relationship, approval, or loss. Section 7. Purpose over pleasure. The Stoic man's final shield. Marcus Aurelius said, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." A man without purpose is a ship without a rudder, tossed, turned, and eventually sunk by every wave of emotion. And in the modern dating world, there is no deadlier wave than pleasure. When a man orients his life around pleasure, he becomes manipulable. Whether it's physical validation, emotional closeness, or the illusion of affection, his compass is guided by what feels good, not what is right, necessary, or true. That's when manipulation becomes effortless. A woman doesn't need to deceive him. His own desire does. She only needs to threaten his access to that pleasure, and he will do anything to restore it. He abandons his standards, compromises his values, and becomes a man ruled by impulse rather than principle. But a man on purpose is different. His North Star isn't her affection, it's his mission. And this creates something profoundly powerful: emotional immunity. He's not cold, he's committed. He's not heartless, he's focused. He doesn't reject connection, he rejects being distracted from his path. This kind of man is rare, because this kind of man is unshakable. The Stoic doesn't wake up asking, "Will she approve of me today?" He wakes up asking, "What must I become to fulfill my purpose today?" He doesn't need constant reassurance from women, because his direction is his reassurance. He doesn't need affection to feel worthy. His vision fuels his worth. And ironically, this makes him magnetic, because nothing attracts a woman more than a man who doesn't need her approval to feel like a man who lives with direction, a man who is whole with or without her. Purpose is a Stoic shield. It protects him from manipulation, it frees him from obsession, and it elevates him above the games others play. Let the world chase pleasure. Let the masses beg for attention. You chase excellence. You pursue purpose, because that's what makes you untouchable. Final Stoic advice: reclaim the kingdom within. In the end, the battle isn't against women. It's against your own mind. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Every manipulation begins with self-abandonment. You gave up your standards. You tolerated disrespect. You chased instead of walked away. And in doing so, you handed over the throne of your inner kingdom. But that throne belongs to you. This isn't about control, it's about sovereignty. When a man rules himself, no one else can. The Stoic doesn't seek power over others. He seeks power within. He seeks clarity, composure, and purpose, not chaos, drama, or validation. Here's what you must remember. Women are not your enemies, but they are powerful forces of emotion. If you don't govern your emotions, you will be governed by someone else's. Manipulation only works on men who don't know who they are. So take the lessons in this video and build your shield. Sharpen your self-awareness. Train your indifference. Define your purpose. Set your boundaries. Stay grounded in what you control. The Stoic man is rare in a world of emotional slaves. He walks alone, but never lonely. He leads, but never dominates. He feels, but never flinches. And if you've made it this far, you're not average. You're ready to take back your mind, to reclaim your masculinity, to lead your life, not be led by it. So if this message resonates with you, subscribe, not for me, for yourself, because every week we build men who don't fold under pressure. We sharpen our minds. We train in silence. We master emotional control. This is Stoic desire, where powerful men are forged through timeless wisdom. We don't chase. We don't beg. We don't break. We rise.